Has Spear of Shojin become one of the most sleeper items in the game? With Axiom Arc buff this patch, who can take advantage of this change the most? We've got those answers and much more, as we'll be providing you guys with 10 new builds that are extremely powerful for patch 13.16. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you truly want to get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. We mentioned in our recent Korean builds video how Spear of Shojin has been gaining popularity on Jarvan, and another champion you don't want to sleep on with the item is Camille. Ravenous Hydra has always been a very standard second pickup on Camille, but swapping it out for Spear of Shojin in select spots can be insanely good. Now, in games where you're already ahead early on and you really want to push your advantage in the 1v1, Spear of Shojin is going to be superior to Ravenous Hydra. The consistent dueling power of Spear is amazing due to all the ability haste and puts Camille Q on such a short cooldown. Now, the only downside to building Spear over Ravenous is that you're missing out on the ability to shove waves super quick. A really nice 3-item core to try with strong offensive and defensive power consists of a Trinity Force Rush, Spear of Shojin 2nd, and Sterix Gauge 3rd. Compared to building Ravenous and Death Stance, you've got 800 more health plus the Sterix Shield, while the damage is very similar. Standard rune page to run is Grasp with Shield Bash, Second Wind, and Unflinching, followed by Freeboots and Biscuits for secondaries. This new Garen build has been on the rise over the past few patches and makes him one of the most OP top laners for solo kill. Full credit goes out to high elo Garen one-trick Wrist, who was the one to pioneer this build recently, so definitely go and check him out. The build consists of rushing Stridebreaker, but after that, you build 2 Zeals. And yeah, you heard that correctly. Instead of completing a full second item, you buy 2 separate Zeals. Now, on paper, this may seem like a bit of a troll, but for Garen specifically, it works incredibly well. Back a few patches ago, when we saw the ADC item rework, Zeal got changed so that its unique movement speed passive no longer exists. Prior to these changes, sitting on more than 1 Zeal was not gold efficient because this unique passive made it so that if you bought a second Zeal, you wouldn't get the passive effects from the second one. Now, in 13.10, Zeal was changed so that it now provides 5% movement speed, but this is no longer tied to a unique passive. It's just a stat on the item. This means you can build 2 Zeals for a total cost of only 2,200 gold, receive 10% movement speed, 30% crit, and 30% attack speed. These are all stats that Garen absolutely loves, especially getting easy access to all that movement speed. Garen has always been a champ gated by his lack of mobility, but this build really helps to shore up that weakness. Zeal's base stats are 125% gold efficient as well, so the value from stacking 2 is actually really good. Now, we get it. You might be wondering, well, if I'm buying 2 Zeals, then what items am I eventually building them into? The complete build path looks like this. Rush the Stridebreaker, go double Zeal. After this, Hullbreaker is going to slot in well. Third item, you'll build one of your Zeals into Phantom Dancer, and then from then on out, you'll just adjust to how the game is going. A lot of the time, you won't even get past 3 items, but Rapid Fire Cannon is the other strong crit item that you build your second Zeal into. The rune page with this build is Phase Rush, followed by Nimbus Cloak, Celerity, and Gathering Storm. Conditioning and Overgrowth are for secondaries. A new build for Lilia has started to emerge, especially over in Korea, and it consists of building Rod of Ages as your mythic. Leandris has been the staple mythic on Lilia for a while now, but Rod is starting to take over analytically. The one massive perk to building Rod of Ages is that it provides durability. Leandris offers no health whatsoever, while Rod of Ages gives you 600 health once it's fully stacked. For a champion like Lilia who needs to be up close to be effective, this added health goes a long way for her ability to thrive in skirmishes. The item also has amazing synergy with Demonic Embrace because the passive on Demonic converts your bonus health into ability power. By going the standard Leandris, Demonic, and Zhonya's build, you're really not able to take full advantage of that Demonic passive. Now, to really amp up the synergy with Demonic Embrace, the third item in this build path is Rylai's. Just a full-on health stacking AP bruiser setup that's still got amazing damage, but allows you to tank so much more and stay alive way longer. As for the rune page, it's Conqueror with Triumph, Tenacity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Celerity and Water Walking for secondaries. With Duskblade nerfed for 13.16, a build you're gonna want to try on Hecarim revolves around a Spear of Shojin rush. Now, Spear has been extremely sleeper on Hecarim ever since its buffs and is performing amazing as his first purchase. Now, the consistent dueling power of the item is incredible and puts your Q on a ridiculously short cooldown. And after building Spear of Shojin, it's going to be Manamune second, which is standard with all Hecarim builds, and the third item is where you slot in your Mythic, which is going to be Radiant Virtue. It's a really great mix of damage and tankiness from this core build. For the rune page, grab Phase Rush with Nimbus Cloak, Celerity, and Water Walking. Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter are great for secondaries. Buffs to Prowler's Claw and Axiom Arc this patch are going to make this Talon core build absolutely insane. Axiom Arc has been a pretty underrated item on Talon in recent patches, and in 13.16, you should really be looking to pick it up. Talon is a champion who's very reliant on his ultimate to find catch plays, as diving in without it is pretty lackluster. By building Axiom Arc, you open up so many more windows of opportunity for yourself due to the shorter R cooldown. R cooldown refund now scales with lethality, so it's most optimal for you to pick up Axiom Arc in the third item slot. Now that Duskblade is nerfed, definitely look to run Ghostblade as your mythic of choice. Second item will be Prowler's Claw, and then round it out with that Axiom Arc third. The rune page is Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Roll with Nimbus Cloak and Absolute Focus for secondaries. A build that one of our challenger experts, Shori, has been liking on his Cassiopeia as of recent that not a lot of other players are using consists of rushing Rylai's. Most Cass players build Rylai's later on in the game, but why not shore up your main weakness as quick as possible by rushing the item? The passive slow from Rylai's makes the champion so much easier to play, as your hit rate on Q will increase drastically. The more Qs you hit, the more DPS you'll output, so it's really a broken item for Cassiopeia. Now, the only downside to rushing Rylai's is that you'll run into mana issues more quickly, so you've got to be more reserved in how you spend your mana. All-in plays are so much easier to execute though, and Shori does a really good job at showcasing this in his full game commentary that can be found on our website. The rest of this build is going to be pretty standard stuff with Leandris in the second slot and Archangel's third, and since you're rushing the Rylai's, going runes like Presence of Mind and Mana Flow are going to be of great help so you don't run low on mana as fast. Some cast players like to go Resolve secondary, but definitely go Sorcery with Mana Flow when playing this build. Lethality builds have been popping up on a few ADCs in the past patch, and one champ the Koreans have been liking them on is Sivir. It's a very unique build in rune page we're seeing played here too. You still want to rush Static Shiv, but from then on out, it's a Black Cleaver second and Duskblade third. The build is more heavily focused around spamming out Q, and because of that, you don't actually want lethal tempo for the Keystone rune. Instead, it's Aerie that players are running with this setup to provide Q with some added damage. Now, in games where you're playing against squishy dive comps that you need to keep your range against, going for this more poke style build can work great. You really don't want to have to be up in auto range to be effective against champs who can one-shot you, so that's where this build can fit in best. Crit is still going to be a great option though when playing into comps that are more bruiser or tank heavy. For the second ADC build, we have a new one for Caitlyn that's really popping off. The rush item winning the most on Caitlyn right now is not Storm Razor, it's not Gale Force, it's not even Static Shiv, it's Ghostblade. With Kate buffed here in 13.16 to where she can generate her passive headshot quicker, this lethality setup is going to be even more lethal. With this 80 stacking build, your Q and R hurt super bad, and headshot damage is completely nuts as well. After rushing the Ghostblade, it's the Collector second, Lord Dom's third, and then if you can get to Bloodthirstier as a fourth pickup, there's just so much AD. Since this build is all about the burst damage and not so much about auto-attacking consistently, you shouldn't be running lethal tempo. Look to grab First Strike as the Keystone rune, as you'll get a lot of value out of it, especially due to the fact Kate is a longer ranged ADC, so she can proc it pretty consistently in lane. Support is generally the role that's most difficult to find new builds for every patch, but we have a pretty crazy one this time, as this new Bard setup is actually looking super fun. Demonic Embrace Rush is performing very well on Bard right now and offers some really nice solo carry power. Analytically, the item is performing equal to Locket, which is the most common rush item on Bard. What makes the item really great for Bard is that his passive actually applies the burn damage from Demonic. Now, this is amazing because the consistent damage output that Demonic Embrace can provide Bard is really insane. Being a champion who wants to roam around the map and find catch plays, going for Demonic Embrace instead of Locket enables you to finish off kills much easier. Sure, you'll lose out on the Locket shield so your team is a bit less tanky, but why even pick Bard if you're trying to protect your team? He's a proactive, roaming support who wants to find picks, so a more offensive option like Demonic just makes way more sense. The complete 3-item core looks like a Demonic Rush into Radiant Virtue 2nd and Abyssal Mask 3rd. For the rune page, take Fleet Footwork with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Cheap Shot and Relentless Hunter are the best secondaries. With the recent rise of mage supports like Xerath and Zyra, one champion that you can play to counter them is Amumu. It's Amumu with Abyssal Mask as a core purchase that can absolutely demolish AP heavy comps. The long range engage power from Amumu Q allows him to get onto these longer ranged mages, and then once he's on top of them, the CC power and tankiness you've got leaves them with nowhere to go. Not only does Amumu hard counter any meta supports, but his synergy with meta ADCs is incredible. Pair Amumu up with Kai'Sa, Ashe, or Misfortune, and you have yourself a very deadly all-in combo at level 6. The 2-item core you can look to run consists of an Evershroud Rush into Abyssal Mask 2nd. The rune page is Aftershock with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching, followed by Cheap Shot and Ultimate Hunter for secondaries. Alright, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's kind of like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym, they'd go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We had over 20 videos a week with over 2,000 guides curated into over 270 courses. No one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell over 1,100 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month to improve fast and get the rank you've always wanted. Link in the description below. So that's going to wrap up everything for all the new builds. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.